Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Tomorrow night at exactly this time, the January 6th committee will convene its second primetime hearing. We'll be, of course, airing it here live on MSNBC, including special coverage afterwards. This hearing is going to focus on the one man responsible for the attempted coup and insurrection, Donald Trump. And as we head towards that hearing, two things have never been clearer in my mind. First, that it was Trump's plan all along to overturn the will of the voters and the American public, to fire a bullet into the heart of American democracy, to use any means necessary, force if it took that, to install himself as ruler of the United States. Second, that is quite literally still the plan right now. And I don't mean that in an abstract sense, like he still wants to be president. No. Donald Trump tried this month, in July of 2022, to overturn the 2020 election.
A state lawmaker describes a new attempt by former President Donald Trump to pressure Wisconsin Republicans to decertify the state's presidential results. 12 News' Matt Smith is joining us now live. Matt, the new account is coming from Assembly Speaker Robin Vos.
Vos telling us in an interview for Upfront, Trump called him last week just after the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruling declaring absentee ballot drop boxes illegal in the state. That phone call happening, then Vos says Trump blasting him on social media. When's the last time you talked to the former president, President Trump?
Within the last week.
Within the last week?
Yeah.
Before or after he tweeted about you?
Before.
And what was that conversation like?
It's one of those that it's very consistent. He makes his case, which I respect. He would like us to do something different in Wisconsin. I explained that it's not allowed under the Constitution. He has a different opinion, then he put the tweet out. So that's it. Yeah.
The former president's most recent attempt to pressure Wisconsin Republicans to decertify Wisconsin's 2020 results. Now coming after the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled the use of absentee ballot drop boxes is illegal.
The court case, as you read it, does not go back and say what happened in 2020 was illegal. It just says going forward it can't happen.
I mean, first of all, how surreal is that interview? The speaker of the Wisconsin House being like, oh, well, he called me. He's very consistent, makes his point that he would like to functionally install himself as dictator for life. I said, can't do it. We just continued on. Lest anyone think he is no longer a threat to our democracy, nearly 2 years after he lost re-election, Donald Trump is still trying to overturn the results. Now, on the one hand, this is delusional to the point where one might genuinely question the ex-president's mental fitness. On the other hand, in a weird way, it's almost rational. It kind of makes sense from Trump's perspective because he has still suffered no consequence for his attempted coup. Let's be clear. We've said it many times on this show. Donald Trump almost got away with it. If he had been able to go to the Capitol during the insurrection like he wanted, at the head of the armed mob, if he had been able to browbeat Mike Pence into refusing to certify the results, well, who knows what might have happened. So, yeah, he's going to keep trying. That's what makes these January 6 hearings so important, because you have an entire party, the Republicans, as embodied by Speaker Vos there, that just continue to politely indulge Trump's continued anti-democratic cravings in this bizarre, polite, submissive, often humiliating way. I mean, the Republican Wisconsin Assembly Speaker, who you just heard recounting the crazy ass Trump made to him last week, said, quote, he makes his case, which I respect. I don't respect it. Just me. So, of course, Trump will continue trying because he has not suffered any consequences for his continued attempts. And an indictment of the ex-president from the Department of Justice, though clearly plausible, given the facts we already know. I mean, I'm not saying he would be convicted or it's a clear-cut case, but plausible, right? An indictment is quite far from guaranteed. Although, take a listen to what Attorney General Merrick Garland said today, which makes it sound like the DOJ investigation is ongoing.
A central tenet of the way in which the Justice Department investigates, and a central tenet of the rule of law, is that we do not do our investigations in public. This is the most wide-ranging investigation and the most important investigation that the Justice Department has ever entered into. And we have done so because this effort to upend a legitimate election, transferring power from one administration to another, cuts at the fundamental of American democracy. We have to get this right. And for people who are concerned, as I think every American should be, about protecting democracy, we have to do two things. We have to hold accountable every person who is criminally responsible for trying to overturn a legitimate election, and we must do it in a way filled with integrity and professionalism, the way the Justice Department conducts investigations. Both of these are necessary in order to achieve justice and to protect our democracy.
So that's where the Justice Department is. We don't really know where they are, to be totally honest. But without any real certainty on DOJ indictments, and I think that's just a completely open question, no one really knows, right? And Donald Trump still calling around being like, hey, could we get an election overthrow, fellas? We are left with this committee, with the Select Committee, the January 6th committee, night in, night out, day in, day out, attempting to spell out to everyone just how dire the threat to our democracy was, and perhaps more importantly, how dire it remains. Now, tomorrow's hearing will focus on Trump's conduct during the insurrection itself. We already know a lot about that. Trump wanted to, according to testimony, lead the mob when they stormed the Capitol. When the Secret Service stopped them, again, according to testimony, he seethed and he pouted. It's entirely possible that in that moment, he realized he wasn't going to be able to stay president because he thought if he could lead the mob to sack the Capitol, then you win, right? Of course, that's why he's still trying to overturn the election. Tomorrow night, we're going to hear from two witnesses who both resigned from the Trump White House on the 6th. Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Pottinger and Deputy Press Secretary and Trump 2020 spokesperson Sarah Matthews. We've actually already seen a small preview of what we might hear from both witnesses tomorrow, as the committee has previously shared some of their recorded closed-doors testimony.
We had all talked about at that point about how it was bad and the situation was getting out of hand. We thought that the president needed to tweet something and tweet something immediately. We all got a notification, so we knew it was a tweet from the president, and we looked down and it was a tweet about Mike Pence. It felt like he was pouring gasoline on the fire by tweeting that.
The tweet said something to the effect that Mike Pence, the vice president, didn't have the courage to do what should have been done. I read that tweet and made a decision at that moment to resign. That's where I knew that I was leaving that day.
Both Matthews and Pottinger saw the insurrection for what it was in the moment on that day, and they joined the legions of people who provided some of the worst, most cutting characterizations of Donald Trump through the years, and those are the people who worked closely with him, know him best, have seen him clearly, and have seen clearly what an active danger he is to our democracy. And it's long been a pattern with Donald Trump, dating well before the January 6th. I remember that anonymous op-ed got a lot of attention, New York Times, from back in 2018. I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration, where a then unnamed Trump staffer wrote, quote, "We believe our first duty is to the country. The president continues to act in a manner that is detrimental to the health of our republic. That is why many Trump appointees have vowed to do what we can to preserve our democratic institutions while thwarting Trump's more misguided impulses until he is out of office." Now, that was a polarizing, controversial op-ed for a bunch of reasons. Whatever you think of the moral calculation embedded in that op-ed of anonymously blowing the whistle on a president you believe is unfit to serve while continuing to work for him, it was pretty prophetic insofar as it basically is how much of the Trump administration played out, particularly the last 35 days, last 40 days, right? Up to and including on January 6th, as we will hear tomorrow.